I'm Ellie, and this video will be an introduction to Hope Positive Africa, a nonprofit organization started by my stepmother, Hope Phillips, and my father, Paul Phillips, in 2010. Hope Positive Africa is based in Uganda and is dedicated to fighting poverty and oppression through relationship building. In the context of these relationships, we confront all manner of problems from theological confusion and fear, preventing the spread of HIV and malnutrition, teaching hygiene, permaculture farming, and well drilling, to teaching basic biblical peacemaking and nonviolent conflict resolution. We encourage our ladies, kids, and donors to take stewardship of themselves, community, environment, culture, and nation as a God-given responsibility. We are not a charity, but a family.
1, 0.
Hope grew up in crushing poverty and struggled with disease, malnutrition, and even violent attack throughout her childhood. She was born in Kasoro, Uganda, a small village on the border of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo, formerly Zaire. When her mother became critically ill from HIV, she was sent to live with her cousin Stella in Zaire and was separated from her younger sister Barbara. Hope's mother died soon after. Stella and Hope's situation became dire after Stella's husband left. Hope's story from this time in her life are harrowing. As well as suffering from malnutrition, Hope contracted elephantitis and a parasitic flea infection known as jiggers all over her body. Jiggers is easily treatable with shoes, socks, and soap, none of which Stella could afford. Eventually, Hope's aunt, Jane, heard of her situation and took her back to Uganda, where she tried to cure her jiggers through a process of cutting the infected skin out with a razor blade. Miraculously, Hope was cured, and today bears few signs of the disease. In all of this suffering, her faith grew. She tells these stories with a smile on her face and constantly interjects her praises for God, getting her through those days. Hope was reunited with Barbara and sometime later was taken in by a large child sponsorship program. She received clothes, food, and education, friends, and a lot of love and attention from the staff. Even though she was in school, her troubles at home would keep her exhausted and unfocused, so she performed poorly. At that time, she was living with 4 young cousins and a teenage cousin who took care of their family of AIDS orphans by any means required, sometimes forced to turn to prostitution. Water was scarce and required a 10-mile hike to gather. Finding enough food and firewood was a constant challenge. Often they would go for weeks eating the same moldy beans, or risk beatings and being set on fire to steal from neighbors' gardens and kitchens. Hope was severely injured when her girls' school was attacked by older boys in something similar to a school shooting. She fell from the top of a triple bunk bed trying to escape and badly damaged a lower vertebrae. Many other girls in her dorm were also injured and some were killed. She could not walk for 6 months. None of the attackers were ever prosecuted. After finishing school, she was enrolled in a teacher training program and she became a certified teacher. While working at a dairy factory, she became engaged. Hope became pregnant while planning her wedding. 4 months later, Hope tested positive for HIV, not from her boyfriend, but likely from dirty razor blades used to treat her jiggers infection when she was a girl. Hope broke off her engagement, not wanting to infect her fiancé or bear any more shame and ridicule from his family, who were already critical of her as an orphan and for being from a rival tribe. In 2009, Hope was able to get a teaching position in Kigali, Rwanda, where she met my dad, Paul Phillips, who was doing accountability inspections for an organization that supported the school. When she and my dad met, her daughter Jojo was 1 year old. Hope and my dad worked together. Hope began to trust my dad and made the difficult decision to tell him she was HIV positive. With his help and encouragement, she began taking antiviral medication, ARTs, and is now very healthy. In 2017, Hope and Jojo immigrated to the United States, and I met them for the first time. In a year, they will become U.S. citizens. She and Paul stay in Uganda periodically, and while in the U.S., she is active in building friendships with Americans and looking for friends who will help in the work, volunteering, and supporting financially. Many aspects of Hope's story are shared by Ugandans in poverty, especially single mothers, those living with HIV, genocide survivors, and AIDS orphans. Women are especially vulnerable to sexual assault and disproportionately suffer from HIV. Hope and my father started Hope Positive Africa out of the deep compassion for those who are suffering in the same ways that Hope did. What began as an organization dedicated to getting single HIV-positive mothers on medication expanded into a ministry to help impoverished women find stability for themselves and their children. This includes job hunting, discipleship, and helping fatherless kids get an education. In the process of working with these women, Hope builds trust and usually discovers who is HIV positive and helps them get the medical care they need to stay alive. The Hope Positive House has developed over the years and included 6 families of single moms and their kids, as well as 2 young women, all living under the same roof, eating together, and working toward unity. Hope truly understands the needs of African women and the cultural challenges they face, so unlike other ministries, she works within the Ugandan culture, slowly and in the context of long-term relationships. Hope Positive Africa is not focused on single outcomes or solutions, but on working through these interwoven and often complex problems with tangible actions. Our daily work can be as exciting as showing a malnourished friend how to set up a compost pile and mulch their garden so they can grow more nutritious food, to talking a friend through the shock of an HIV diagnosis, to working through a dispute between friends, to offering a bar of soap and a meal to a dirty and hungry neighbor child whose parents cannot afford either. Hope's dream is to form a teaching village where women and their children can grow together as a community and family, and in that context get all the help, training, and love they need. Her goal is to create a family community church reflective of the body of Christ.
And who is this one? And who is this one? Who's this one?
I don't know. Don't say that.
Okay, don't touch.
No, I know.
Recently, our home community model has changed. After 8 years living and working with us, our ladies have become independent, living in their own homes and finding employment. We are now based on 3 acres of land in a rural village, on which we plan to expand the organization toward children's education and practicing and teaching natural farming techniques. Families will often spend the majority of their income to send children to schools, where they are often beaten, especially for asking too many questions in class, and trained by the current political culture not to read or think critically or creatively. To address this, we have begun a weekend reading program for the local village kids, where they have access to a small library, are encouraged to ask questions and develop their curiosity, get a free meal, and pick up needed school supplies. Through this, we are building relationships with the children so that we can begin to address their other needs. Farming practices in Uganda often rely on harmful chemical pesticides and herbicides, which limits families' ability to grow healthy food for themselves. On our land, we are using permaculture and natural farming methods to replenish the lost topsoil. As we grow food on our land, we will demonstrate to our neighbors in the village the benefits of natural farming and begin to teach them to utilize these methods on their own land. Our work does not stop in Uganda. We, unlike so many other organizations doing charity work in Africa, see our relationship with our donors very differently. We feel that God has called us to enter into a prophetic role with our donors, calling for the justice God commands for widows, orphans, and the oppressed. The biggest challenges in Africa, when one looks deeply at their origins, often have deep ties to the West and our ongoing colonization of the continent. Many of our donors have personal relationships with the women we work with via our Facebook group, friends of Hope Positive Africa, and some have visited our Hope Positive household to get face-to-face time with their new Ugandan family. When you join the Hope Positive family, we talk together, get to know each other, and whenever possible, we eat together.
We had budgeted for 100, but guess what? 200 showed up. We don't know where many kids came from, but I'm so happy. I'm overwhelmed with your love. I'm overwhelmed to see these kids happy. I'm overwhelmed to see everyone eating, everyone drinking, everyone eating meat, everyone drinking soda. So I'm really very, very, very happy. Very happy. I can't tell you how my heart now is really singing, dancing. So I really appreciate you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. May God bless you. More and more and more and more. Thank you for making this happen. Thank you so much. God bless you.